Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Feedback Friday, here for Friday, September 2nd, 2016. Damian Nelson sitting alongside our very special guest here in Milwaukee, joining us on set, Tommy Dreamer. Tommy, welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report.
Thank you for having me. A beautiful restaurant. We get to talk wrestling. We get to eat. I get to hang out with my friend Dave, and you're here too.
Oh, yeah.
So, got to be here.
I didn't even see Dave. Dave Hero, right?
See me.
He's losing weight.
Can you lose more, like all of it, so I don't ever see you?
You're still a heel. Okay.
I was never a heel. I'm a tweener. Well, folks, welcome to Feedback Friday. As I said, active discussion here this week, of course, with a lot going on in the wrestling world. But let's first get to our top story. And actually, it's two topics. The first of which are recent reports coming out of WWE that a major star in the name of Alberto Del Rio may no longer be with the company. Now, as you know, Alberto Del Rio was suspended on August 17th for a wellness policy violation, that being a 30-day suspension, I believe. And now reports are out there that his contract is set to expire in October with a potential out clause in September. As you know, it is now September, and Alberto Del Rio is potentially on his way out of WWE. Now, Dave, Tommy, I want to hear first, before we talk about this situation, your thoughts on the last 12 months of Alberto Del Rio's utilization in WWE. As we know, he returned at Hell in a Cell last year, beat John Cena for the United States Championship, and then that was about it. So what's your take on Del Rio's year so far? We'll start with you, Tommy.
Well, I think financially it was a great year for him, but for a lot of wrestlers, it's not about your finances, it's about your love and your passion and what really they do with you and your character. I'm the biggest Alberto Del Rio fan. He is one of those guys, when I went back to WWE, I see him in the light of Eddie Guerrero. He has that charisma, he has that it factor that you look for, especially with a real MMA background, as well as he speaks Spanish. I think he should have been one of the most pushed superstars, but you know what? It didn't happen. And if he's happy, I'm happy because I'm friends with him, and I think it's a smart career move. He could wrestle, make a lot of money on the indies across the world. He could go back to Lucha Underground. He could go back to any company in Mexico. He's a huge star. I can't wait because I'm going to be the first person to hit him up. I just found out about this, so. See, now your show is really good because I found out about this. First time.
We try to be informative, Tommy. Thank you. David, Alberto Del Rio's last 12 months.
You know what?
11 months.
It could have been great. They had him in the League of Nations with Rusev and Barrett and Sheamus and Del Rio, and it could have been a great heel faction, but they never got momentum behind him. Yeah. And Del Rio he's a competitive guy. He wants to be that guy, and when you're stuck in neutral for as long as you are, and you're not given anything, a guy like him who's a former world champion, he wants to be up on top, and he's not. And I can't blame him for wanting to leave.
He was gone from WWE for quite some time, and one would think that when he came back, he had some promises made or some commitments made, perhaps, and it would seem as if that Del Rio thought his year would be a lot more stellar than it was, because really he hasn't been a part of the main event scene since defeating John Cena last year.
That's pretty much what Dave said is when you come up you have these high expectations. He had Zeb with him. He had always this so close and then taken away from him. And I don't know what the behind the scenes was. I just know I was on shows when he wrestled John Cena. I was wrestling the Wyatts. He was, and those places were packed. Him and John were having some great matches. It was when John was coming back. I see the world in him, but yes, a lot of it for guys. And, he's knocking on, he's in incredible shape, but he's knocking on 40. Yeah. And, for guys like myself, for him, for the Dudleys, it's not just about the money. It's about what you want to be perceived, your legacy, as well as, how you want to be utilized. It's not at times worth it on your body. Doing what you do. Why are you sweating so much?
It's hot in here, and I'm with
280. He's about 290, and you're the leanest guy.
I'm 265.
Sweating. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
But you're in a positive nitrogen balance because you are just
positive nitrogen balance.
Yeah, man. Your nitrogens are making you move back and forth internally, and that's why you're sweating. You're burning calories.
Is that like the pH level?
Yes. Continue.
Alberto Del Rio, you talked about that MMA background. Obviously, he can spend time in Mexico. He's quite popular there. If he were to depart WWE at this time, what do you think his next step should be, Tommy?
I think he should contact Bellator and book himself in a, well, you look at the ratings that guys like Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, I would contact them. I would also contact, he's going to be contacted by everyone, but he'll be fine for the next...
He'll be cashing in for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Text me, bro. Call me.
We talked a little bit, you brought them up actually, the Dudley Boyz, who last week made their departure from WWE. They too there for about a year. It seemed like they played a key role in WWE upon their return, which was to continue or to focus on enhancing the tag team division in the company. Were they successful at that?
I feel they were. Dudley's, greatest tag team, not in my opinion, but most decorated tag team of all time. They came in, if you think about it, the New Day was on the fringe in that company, and then they had that feud with the Dudleys, and then once you had that, and then they took off. That was my role in the original ECW. Yeah. You wrestled Tommy Dreamer, you had a feud with Tommy Dreamer, you moved on. That's how it should be for guys, and that was when I was in my prime, but that's been always like me and my deal. But for the Dudleys, being used like that was a great way to use them, and they could always get the crowd into their match. Heels, baby faces, it doesn't matter what they do. However, just like we're talking about Alberto Del Rio, there comes a point where, hey, if you're just going to lose for the sake of losing, that doesn't help another team get over or advance. What we did with the Wyatts, dude, that was great. I was happy to be there. I thought it worked. It got people buzzing about the Wyatts, about the feud. It was a great time, but would I have done that every single night? No, because it's just, there's more to it. It's not just going out there and being beaten because you're old, because then that is something called ageism, and age is just a number.
When New Day beat the Dudleys, it legitimized them. The same way when the Usos beat Road Dogg and Billy for the tag belts.
Correct.
They finally beat a tag team with substance, with a legend behind them, and it made them bigger stars. And what's cool about what they did with New Day and Dudleys is they just didn't have New Day beat Dudleys. New Day kept going. And they've actually built on that instead of dropping the belts 2 months later to somebody else.
Right. Yep. I agree 100%. But, it's for... I've spoken with Bubba and Devon, and it's kind of the same situation. In a year, I think it's good for WWE just to bring a few people back and just to get rid of them. But if you're then looking to re-sign them, what is that dangling carrot? Money? Yeah. It's not worth it. It's not worth it on your body, not worth it on your travel, unless you need the cash. And if you need the cash, then you got to do it. But if you don't, then just keep on. There's life after WWE. A lot of guys are starting to finally realizing that.
Now, talking about that same situation, a lot of people have put Chris Jericho in the same category. Some people have even put you in the same category. When you get to that point working with WWE where you're there and you're there to help others, what happens? What's going on psychologically in your head? As you said, there's life after WWE, but you're coming in knowing that you're there to, in the fans' minds, lose a lot of matches.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not. It's how you lose, as well as if my last match would have been that last match I had with the Wyatts in Philadelphia, when it was kind of like that old school style. I would have been really, really happy with that. If not so much the next week when we went back in Minneapolis and it was the Slammies and we had this like 12-man match that I was there for 4 minutes and then it's just over. For what they were doing with Chris Jericho, it's great. He should there still was a point where I was saying Chris Jericho was one of the top heels of WWE and should be. Why couldn't he be WWE champion? Right. If you go back to George Foreman's run at the heavyweight title, that's an amazing story to tell, because if you think about most of the wrestling fans from the 80s and the 90s, the heydays, the heart, they're now our age. And they've grown up with Tommy Dreamer, Chris Jericho, and the Dudleys. For the wrestling fans to still hate Chris Jericho after this, how great is his job?
And one thing that Dave has talked about quite a bit on this show, and the fans have had some difficulty comprehending, is that difference between winning, losing, and getting over. How would you explain it to the wrestling fans out there who may not fully understand, and a lot of them who really take a lot or give a lot more weight to the fact of whether or not a person wins or loses a match to ultimately what happened coming out of the match?
I kind of would equate it, like, I guess myself, I would be like the Chicago Cubs. If you really think about it.
This year?
No.
Okay.
But you never know. They haven't won it yet.
True, very
Why
true.
would you ever root for Tommy Dreamer? He loses all the time. But because they know Tommy Dreamer goes out there and he busts his big ass every single week for the fans. And you know, what Terry Funk did for ECW when he was in his 50s was amazing. Here's a 50-year-old man doing moonsaults into the crowd. He won some, he lost some, but it's like, another perfect example, Kane. Kane is still in WWE. He's the longest probably tenured wrestler that's not related to the company, that's still there all the time. Goes out there, they hit his music, boom, the place, he can lose, he can win. Wins and losses mean nothing when you reach a certain level, just like titles. When if they get the title,
said that a couple times.
It doesn't. That's why I never wanted a title in ECW, because I didn't need it. You needed it to help build somebody or to help get them to the next level. Once you were at that level, you don't need it. You know, when it was in WWE, it was different. Plus, you're the face of the company. WWE is a completely different machine. But would it hurt Chris Jericho or Kane to win the heavyweight title? Absolutely not. But do they need it? No, they don't.
John Cena never needs to be world champion again. Doesn't have to.
Do you think he will be?
I'm sure he'll get one more, but he doesn't need it.
Yeah.
He's still the guy.
I think Triple H will win the title just so he can break the record of all-time champion.
You think he'd do it? Looks like he might. Folks, great discussion here on Feedback Friday. Our special guest, Tommy Dreamer. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, discussion on Ryback and a recent interview and his decision to not stay in WWE. Feedback Friday continues right after this. Welcome back, fans, to the Pro Wrestling Report Feedback Friday for September 2nd, 2016, here on the Fight TV app. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero and our special guest here this week in the Milwaukee, Tommy Dreamer, the hardcore legend, Tommy Dreamer. Now, Tommy, I understand tomorrow night you're going to be joining us. I'm going to get an opportunity to have a special sit-down interview with you on primetime. So it's a weekend of Dreamer, the weekend of dreams.
Nice. Yep.
Right?
We got
here on
some
the
nice
Pro Wrestling
surprises
Report
for the Milwaukee
surprises.
area. Yep. We got tons of surprises. Well, we've talked off camera. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
All right, well, something to look forward to, folks. But also, as we just got done talking about Alberto Del Rio potentially being done with WWE, we know that Ryback has been done with WWE for a few weeks, and he has recently spoken out about his decision to leave the company. Ryback saying he turned away a $1.5 million 3-year contract, so about $500,000 a year, because of creative differences. Ryback saying that he was promised a matchup with AJ Styles at WrestleMania 33 in Dallas, yet he ended up on the pre-show. And then subsequently decided to leave the company. Now, Tommy, you've had contract after contract after contract with almost every wrestling company that's out there today.
Every wrestling company.
What does it take to decide to turn down $1.5 million over the course of 3 years?
Well, shockingly, you're talking to someone who has just turned down WWE as well.
Oh, wow.
And it was not a hard decision for me. When I went back to work for WWE, I was not under contract. I had at times I didn't even sign a release. I was there, man of my word, and worked out great. I truly do love working for WWE. I love wrestling. I would love to work for every single company every single weekend. I would love to work Monday, Tuesday, go to TNA Thursday, go to Lucha Underground. I would love to do that all, but unfortunately, you can't. That's why I kind of formed a company with no politics, no BS, just wrestling. Shocking. That is the mantra of my company.
Yeah.
Is it hard to turn down that money? Yes. Thinking about what I had to do, I had to look that I have, twin daughters who are age 12 years old. They're got to go to college. Hey, maybe that could pay for their college, but I couldn't do that for my own. You can't put a price on your own personal happiness. Mm-hmm. So if that's where Ryback feels in his career, you have to also look at, can Ryback go and make $1.5 million on the indies? I don't know. Can he make $1.5 million in the next 3 years in his own life? But if it's about your own happiness, there is no price that you can pay. When I left WWE the first time, I started hating doing something that I've loved since I was 9 years old.
Really?
So that's why I had to go.
Yeah.
I had to leave because I didn't want to be a bitter veteran, as well as I did not like going to work anymore. I was just in a different place, and I had a 5-year contract as well. And I went to Vince. Vince, I don't want to be here. He'd like me to stay. We had a great conversation. Vince has always been mad cool with me, but it's just I needed to leave to go away. When I came back, I came back for the Slammies once, then I came back for the Wild. It was a great time, and then just last time they wanted me to come back for the draft, and I was like, yep, I'll do it. But then they wanted me to sign a contract, and I can't sign a contract with WWE right now because I have charities, I have my own show, I got my own stuff, and again, I'm 45 years old. I have a hard time being told what to do. I'm a crazy, crazy wrestler, but I'm okay. If I fail with House of Hardcore, I fail on my own. If I succeed on my own as well. So
we're going to talk much more about House of Hardcore tomorrow night on Primetime, but that company's been around for several years now, and it certainly hasn't failed.
Nope, we've been doing pretty well. I don't want to say I've been. This has been my most productive year. I've only, first year I only did 1 show. The next year I did 2 shows. The next year I did 4 shows, and now I'm at almost going to be 20, and we're going to be announcing some newer events coming up here. That's why we are here. But today we're just talking about wrestling. What's your name? Ryback. Ryback. I don't know what you were thinking, but hopefully you were making the right choice, and hopefully you have 1.5 stashed away. Because big guy, that's a lot of money. But hey, I get it because it turned out a nice hefty sum as well.
David Hero, Ryback, $1.5 million left behind.
But if you look, it's a huge number. It's a ridiculous number. But you look at the breakdowns, and what his response was, that he'd be paying $600,000 in taxes, $400,000 in travel.
He says his travel was supposed to be included in this contract.
But he said, according to what he said in the interview, it was still 400. You can still work around that. That's a pretty big number, and it's different when you're Ryback and you have the machine behind you.
Right.
You're Ryback on the Indies, and Tommy,
Ryan Reeves, right?
You never know who you're going to work on those shows.
Right.
You show up at the airport and you're hoping someone picks you up in a vehicle that at least has 4 wheels on it sometimes. Yes. So I don't know if he is ready for that either, because he's been with the company pretty much since day one. He's never done the indies. He's never lived that indie lifestyle. And for a guy that's been under the big lights and had huge expectations from WWE, that bar drops considerably once you start going town to town on the indies.
Do you think, David, he ever lived up to those expectations?
Oh, yeah. Because when he was just Ryan Reeves in NXT, no one ever saw that. No one ever thought he would become the big guy and get as over as he did.
Yeah.
He is, he was, when I ran the developmental system, he was one of my guys, and he totally he was released before, and then, he was brought back, and he has, from the Nexus angle, and he just kind of saw it, and, that Feed Me More was it was getting popular. To me, it had Goldberg-esque behind it, and then, it's a lot of behind the scenes that, we don't know, nor do I care about, but, whenever, I don't feel it's the actual wrestler, because he really has stepped up with his wrestling ability. He has improved. I really like the guy. He's another guy that, and Feed Me More, though, I think he stole that from me.
He had the look, he had the charisma, and if you look at some of the guys they have now today on TV, they don't look like a Ryback.
David has a problem with small guys. I don't know if you've been watching the show, Tommy, but I'll frame it for you. He doesn't like Finn Balor because he's too small and he's 190 pounds. That's what he's introduced at.
Okay.
That's what you've said. Didn't like Daniel Bryan. Didn't like, who else is on your list of those that are too small?
My problem with Finn Balor was on his debut on Raw, they introduced him as being 190 pounds.
And they subsequently did so many times.
Yes. When did weights ever become real in wrestling?
Yeah.
At least Greg Gagne was 219 from Mount Minnesota. Okay?
I was going to say, you grew up in the 80s. You like those bigger guys.
No, but when you have a guy... So what you're telling me is that Finn Balor, at 190, can beat Rusev and Roman Reigns in the same night.
I was not a fan.
Seemingly so.
If we're talking about Finn Balor, I was not a fan of... My biggest worry with Finn Balor was if he won the title, what would happen to him... I'm sorry, what would happen to him if he lost the title? Because then what? He had all this hype and steam coming right in, and then it's like, okay, what happens now? But now we don't have to worry about that because he's taken out.
And then,
6 months out.
And then my other argument was, okay, you're promoting Finn Balor against Seth Rollins, and then you switch it up to now it's the Demon. So did you not think Finn Balor alone was a big enough star to fight for the title?
There is merit to your argument.
No, there isn't. He doesn't understand. Finn Balor is it is a dimension. The Demon is a dimension of Finn Balor, and the Demon is a special attraction, a special event.
Never got a chance to prove he could do it.
Finn Balor did, because Finn Balor is the Demon.
Yeah, but what he's saying, Finn Balor didn't get it on the main stage of the Raw roster or WWE. He got to do it in NXT, and then when he gets so angry, he becomes a Demon. It's kind of like Tommy Dreamer and the Crazy Innovator of Violence.
Yeah.
But it would take a lot of face paint and makeup to cover
glad
this.
Tommy is here.
I understand that because he came in. It was 2 weeks, and guess what? He's a champ. That was my biggest worry because I'm a huge Finn Balor fan. I think he is great, and I don't care if a guy's this big or if a guy's this big, whether you're heavyweight champion of the world or not. But I don't judge a person by their body, or I just judge them by their ring. And in ring, he's amazing. I do understand his point. I do understand your point. But he needed to be more. What would have happened if the Demon would have lost? They were putting all their eggs in that basket. Then what? I think Finn Balor is Jeff Hardy done right.
That is fascinating what you just said. Jeff Hardy done right.
Yep.
Wasn't Jeff Hardy done right for a number of years though?
In WWE's version.
Okay.
Jeff Hardy had his demons and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Jeff at times was just burnt from the system.
Right.
Jeff Hardy was done right. He's one of my closer friends, but I'm saying Jeff Hardy done right in the WWE bubble. Like, this was like, we have this creation, and now it's out.
You knew when Finn Balor was now the Demon in that match at SummerSlam, there was no way the Demon was going to lose.
He shouldn't have. But we didn't. I get it. I didn't watch NXT. I watched all those specials. I didn't understand the whole Demon thing, and I was just like, if I had all that build up to that, that's why he is correct in his argument. Where as a casual fan, or just there are fans who just watch NXT. There are fans who just watch Raw, and it's just. But if you're a Raw guy, how are you gonna understand this Demon? I had to ask about Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah,
I didn't understand.
I still don't understand him.
I do understand. His favorite musicians were Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury, and that's what he combines into his entrance.
Okay.
But I had to ask somebody that because I was like, I don't get it. What's with the crazy fingers?
Yes.
And they're like, he does that in his thing. But because I don't watch NXT, I had to get that explained to me.
But they don't do the vignettes anymore. When new guys were coming in, you'd have 6 weeks. Like when Ted DiBiase first
They're
came
doing
in.
it with Kurt Hawkins. They're trying.
Yes, they are.
And they're giving squash matches, and the squash guys are getting more over than
the in-ring talent. Yes. But when
their indie rate is going through the roof.
Especially the Milkman character from
Jake the Milkman.
It wasn't Jake the Milkman from Milk. But
Why didn't they book him? They could have.
But when Razor Ramon first came in, we saw vignettes for weeks.
But there you are, back in the early 90s again.
But that worked. That got the guys over. So when they got the TV, you knew who they were.
Well, hang on there. Right? Now I got to agree with him, and I hate agreeing with him.
Yeah.
They did that with Primo and Epico, and they're reeling up all these vignettes. They were like 8 weeks of vignettes.
But no one knew who they were in the vignettes. I thought that they were travel
No one knew
agents.
who Razor Ramon was either.
Come on. You knew he was the bad guy, Chico.
In the vignettes.
Yes.
I knew he was a guy from Scarface. I hated the Razor Ramon vignettes. I really did. But that's the beauty of wrestling. Like, I loved Razor Ramon, the wrestler. I wasn't happy with the vignettes.
I was shocked when he was Scott Hall. Because being here in Milwaukee, AWA, I'm like, that's Scott Hall?
Yeah.
What? How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, some amazing discussion. Thank you, Tommy. I hear you saying that you don't agree with David Hero that size matters.
Correct.
David, would you like to?
Fine. No, but
because you hate the small guys.
I don't know.
Except AJ Styles.
I just don't believe a guy like Finn Balor can ever be Brock Lesnar.
What do you mean a guy like Finn Balor? Where did Brock Lesnar come into play? They're not working together.
They could.
Spike Dudley, girl. That's all I could say.
Yes.
Mikey Whipwreck, Finn Balor, AJ Styles. Come on.
But
they might have been less than 190.
But Spike and Mikey were the ultimate underdogs.
Yes. There we go.
They weren't pushed to the top.
Do you hear this?
First
Do you see it?
weeks.
It's like there's a top spinning on this table. It just spins everything.
But, right?
I always like how X-Pac was always viewed as a small guy, and then you meet X-Pac, and he's like a little taller than me. He's just like, and he's muscular. I was like, you go back and look at him, he's just like, and I've known him since he first started. I was like, why were you always like the underdog guy? You're an average size person. You're more than average size. But that's pro wrestling for you.
We're going to take a time out, folks. When we come back, we've got your comments from last week on our shows. It's your favorite part of the show, David, right here on Feedback Friday.
With your House of Hardcore update, here's Vic Travagliante.
We are inside the HOH studios, and the House of Hardcore Summer Tour is coming to an end. It saw us go to 3 countries here in the United States and Texas, up to Canada and Niagara Falls, and all the way around the globe to Melbourne, Australia. And the House of Hardcore Tour comes to an end in under 3 weeks' time. House of Hardcore 17 takes place in Long Island for the first time on Friday night, September the 16th. In one of the featured matches, Broken Matt Hardy will face Aaron Stevens, also known as Damian Sandow or Aaron Rex. Hardy has vowed to delete Stevens off the wrestling map. Also, Tommy Dreamer faces Rhino in an extreme New York street fight. It's the first time these two will face each other one-on-one in an HOH ring. The next night, we return home to South Philly inside the 2300 Arena, and in a match being made more possible by the magic of Twitter, Broken Matt Hardy with Senior Benjamin will face Tommy Dreamer with Senior Funkster. That's right, Terry Funk returns to the 2300 Arena on Saturday, September the 17th. Hardy has vowed to delete Tommy Dreamer and House of Hardcore. For more matches, for others that will be appearing, meet and greet start times, tickets, even for upcoming shows in Cleveland and in Pittsburgh, go to houseofhardcore.net.
Welcome back, fans, to the Pro Wrestling Report Feedback Friday. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Hero and our special guest this week, Tommy Dreamer. Tommy, thank you. Are you liking your time in Milwaukee here so far?
I love Milwaukee. Come on now. I've been coming here for years, since the rave, and came here.
Ah, yes.
And I had some amazing times. I actually called a few of my running mates in ECW when I was driving here, just talk about some crazy times at the rave.
Those were great shows.
Oh, man. They
a couple
were.
of pay-per-views from that
There's always a great
wild
time.
venue.
Always a great time.
And that's a great ECW building was the rave.
Yeah.
And you know, it's also a great wrestling town. It always has been. It's so historic and deep rooted with professional wrestling from the AWA, you know, and WWE, you know, coming here, ECW, WCW came here. I love it here. I always have. Get to go to a Brewers game. I want to go to a Bucks game. We got to talk about that. Hopefully they'll be playing. But it's a great town. Love it.
Well, folks, let's get to your comments this week on our shows last week. And the first one is regarding the discussion on the championship belts. A lot of you in disagreement with the look of the championship belts. Apparently that is a hot topic. And YouTube user by the name of Low Lock had the following to say, and I quote, "I don't understand what your problem is if people don't like the belts. They have the right to have that opinion, and after the WWE Championship designs have been ugly since it was introduced, and the Universal title just a color swap, but SmackDown tag titles look better than Raw, even though I know that that's just a color swap too." Did Low Lock just agree with himself? Or agree with us?
I'm a little confused.
A lot of discussion about people not liking the look of the belts. I can't believe we're spending so much time talking about it, but it is a hot topic
Who's the
issue.
intern that put this on, on here?
Your new intern.
Oh, she's done. That was ridiculous.
Fired again. Next casting couch. Come on.
Right? See, Tommy even knows.
But the belts represent the brand.
Yes.
That's all they're doing.
The blue belts, the red belts.
So the Universal belt, by looking the same as the WWE belt, means they're both on the same equal playing field. The tag titles looking the same mean they're both worth the same. The women's titles looking the same mean they're both worth the same. If you look at and Tommy's a big baseball guy, he knows the American League MVP trophy looks identical to the National League MVP trophy because they're both worth the same.
Yeah.
One belt looks better than the other. Well, that means one belt is perceived to have more value than the other.
I personally could care less about the titles. If Vince McMahon was here, he would yell at both of you for calling them belts because anyone can own a belt, but champions have titles. So I agree with that assessment. The color scheme is like, yeah, red, blue, I get it. For me, it's the biggest part about it. It's merchandise, and it's merchandising for... and the fans carry them everywhere. I love them because then I get to sign them. I say, I never held this belt, and I never will. But
I think I saw a fan here earlier with a belt walking around.
I think they should make them either the same or totally different, but yes, not have one bigger than the other. It should have the same dimensions.
Yeah.
And the whole red and blue thing, I don't know. Isn't that like the Democrat and Republican colors?
Ooh, you're gonna go there? Okay.
Yeah, no, and I hate politics. That's why no politics, no BS, just wrestling. House of Hardcore.
You're a Gary Johnson guy?
So I could go all the way back around. Though I think our president may be a WWE Hall of Famer. I don't vote. I haven't voted. And if you want to talk politics, all I got to tell you, this election has been pro wrestling 101. Trump came in as the heel. He just said stuff to try to get himself over. He got over and was like, I'll run for president. And now this is what's going to happen in our world. But that's cool because I could say I met and hung out with the president.
Yeah. These belts, the colors, the brand split itself. If you were the man making the decision in WWE, is that a decision you would have made? Would be to go back to the brand split as they did back in July?
I love the brand split. I think what they should do, and I'll give you the free advice, Road Dogg, I know you listen, I know you watch this show. Here's what you need to do. WrestleMania, because, hey, you got to sell tickets, you got to put asses in seats. WrestleMania needs to be the heavyweight champion versus the heavyweight champion.
Ooh,
the
yes.
Intercontinental champion versus the U.S. champion. The tag team champions versus the tag team champions. It needs to be, and I don't want to say this, bragging rights. They could wrestle at the end for who gets the first ever ring, who gets a trophy, what brand is better. The one thing I did not like about the brand split was as soon as Randy Orton came in and he did that RKO on Brock, here came all the wrestlers to act like, oh, you invaded our space. The split was just last week. Now, just because you're on a different brand, we hate each other. There are baseball players, there are football players who literally get traded before the game and have went and gone to the other team. They don't hate each other. You need to build up to those rivalries. You can build it up at Survivor Series. You can have WrestleMania be the most meaningful WrestleMania of all time. Of who's going to get that ring, and if it's Raw, you can copy the NFL because that's all a work too. You can have the NFL hold that, and Raw hold that title, that trophy for 3-4 years, and then finally here comes the SmackDown brand, just like the Jets did in '69, and they could finally win. You can go back and forth. You can have years and years of, and then switch guys. You can have the guy be like a guy getting traded from a team. Hey, I won the Super Bowl for Raw, but guess what? This year I'm on SmackDown. It's amazing stuff you can do. You're welcome, WWE.
But let me ask you this, Tommy, and I think that's a phenomenal idea.
I'm a genius. Come on, just ask me.
Aren't you blurring the brand split to get to WrestleMania at that point? Because you got to build the stories between the talents, right?
No, you don't.
No, number one versus number one.
Exactly. They never have to touch. Every year they don't have to touch. And I get they're going to have they should have co-branded shows. But, if
that's where you build it.
Yeah, the only time you can build it is Survivor Series. And if you want to do a Survivor Series, or if you want to do a Rumble, your Rumble, how much more meaningful will your Rumble have? Where if you get to say, guess what, whoever wins this Royal Rumble gets to be the number one contender for that title. It's not at WrestleMania anymore. But so now the winner of that gets to face the winner of that. Boom,
that's how they built Brock and Goldberg, was at the Rumble that one year. They bumped into each other.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Well, let's get to another comment. And earlier we talked about Finn Balor, and the YouTube user by the name of Variety Vendor, had the following to say. And this is in direct response to what you said last week, that Finn Balor, and the Demon, rather, is a character. He says, and I quote, "The Demon King was never a character. It was war paint for Finn. Even the announcer said Finn Balor, the Demon King, not just the Demon King. His moveset is the same. He wrestles the same. It's not like Balor will be wearing the paint job every single time he shows up on TV. They save it for special occasions, which shows that they have faith in both Balor and his gimmick. Unlike Dude Love, Cactus Jack, and Mankind, all are different alter egos with even different fan bases."
So the Demon King's not the alter ego of Finn Balor.
No, it's a layer.
But why do they sell separate merchandisings of the Demon King and Finn Balor if it's not the same character?
I needed to be more invested. Again, I watch wrestling. I watch everything. I don't watch NXT because I don't, there's only so many hours of the day.
It's the easiest show to watch every week if you want some advice, because it's only an hour long.
Okay.
It goes by like that.
I like the 3-hour specials.
What?
I do. I enjoy those.
From NXT?
Yeah.
Not 3-hour Raw.
No, I like the 3-hour specials. I don't know if it's painful, but there's, I TiVo everything, so I go bloop, 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 bloop.
That guy.
So, but, like I said, I needed to be explained the whole demon character. So, it was kind of, and when you talk about the evolution of a character, when you had Kane, the monster Kane, when he finally, they made such a big deal of him finally saying, "Suck it."
Yes. Which was hilarious, by the way.
But we waited for weeks. He's going to talk. And when he finally did it, it was an amazing moment. Here, Finn Balor is drafted. Finn Balor is... I was happy that everyone knew his entrance and was standing up doing his thing. But, why would he get so mad at Seth Rollins that he's going to break out this character or a different layer?
They killed Finn Balor by saying he wasn't good enough to beat Seth
They
Rollins.
had to introduce the demon to the audience because, as you said earlier,
not
for
so
those that
soon.
don't watch NXT,
They were better off having Finn Balor lose a close match to Seth Rollins and then come up short another time. And then finally
in this
have
scenario,
enough.
maybe that would have been better.
Or if he lost at SummerSlam, he loses at SummerSlam, and then he gets a rematch, and then he gets, guess what? Now you're going to face the demon.
Yes.
And boom. Because then I could be more invested into it. But now, guess what? We get to wait 6-7 months.
And
And I know him. I know him from New Japan. He's an amazing wrestler. He's somebody that if I had Finn Balor, I would say, here's run the ball with my company,
Yeah.
because
But
he's an amazing in-ring
Tommy,
performer.
as you know, with injuries like this, other guys could pick up their game. And now when Finn Balor comes back, he's number 4 on the list.
Yep. You never know who's going to get over. Someone took his spot, brother.
One final comment here on Feedback Friday. This one comes from YouTube user Ryan Davis, who says, and I quote, "In the 80s, people actually bought into the heel versus face matches and actually cared who won for the right reasons. Now, fans, quote unquote, care based on backstage politics they think they know about because they really don't care about the thing that has always made wrestling special, kayfabe." Would you agree or disagree, David and Tommy?
You want to take it first, or you want me to?
It's always better when he takes it first.
no.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, first of all, if it was kayfabe, then you wouldn't know what that meant. Did you?
Oh!
Number 2, I appreciate you when you were a pitcher for the Minnesota Twins and the New York Yankees in the 1980s, as well as I agree what you're saying. It was funny. Me and David off camera were talking about here is Kevin Owens finally winning the heavyweight title, and guess what? We all cheered and we were all happy, but he was supposed to be the bad guy. Kevin Owens is probably one of the few people, or a Bubba Ray Dudley, that in the year 2016 can actually make the fans angry, or a Chris Jericho, or even a Paul Heyman can make the fans angry, but then at the end we're like, oh, what a great promo that Paulie said. So wrestling is awesome because you have 3 men here sitting talking about it. It is a...
2, 1.
Whoa, you are a heel, man.
Well,
Whoa.
you said men, so that would mean you're not in the equation.
Listen,
Stop
let's-
interrupting, Tommy.
We're making great points here. But yes, I agree that yes, wrestling is not splitting the atom. It is not curing cancer. It is good versus evil, and that blurred line is sometimes hard to root behind. The fans will root behind. But to me, if we're all cheering for the good guy, then I have to say, hey, this has to be a good guy. Or like Roman Reigns, when everyone's booing him, I think they should have turned him. And or Seth Rollins, when Seth Rollins came back from his injury, he should have been turned. He would have been the biggest babyface to go after Roman Reigns, who could have been the biggest heel. They could have done like a Steve Austin, Bret Hart turn, and both guys would have been like this, higher than they are.
This is by far the longest edition of Feedback Friday we've ever done,
I'm
but that's
sorry.
great because
I
no,
love
the discussion
wrestling.
is amazing, and actually your mention of Roman Reigns leads me to another question from a professional, a person in the business, a person
Okay.
who knows. What is the hatred for Roman Reigns founded in? Why do so many fans dislike Roman Reigns? Because I don't think it's arguable that he isn't the total package in wrestling.
I'm a huge fan of Roman Reigns. I can see how Vince McMahon was putting all his eggs in the Roman Reigns basket. If you look at the history of WWE, they do usually put all their eggs in one basket on one guy, and everyone else is kind of tiered off. You know, it was
And it's worked.
from Hulk Hogan. Exactly. It's what Vince McMahon knows. Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena. It goes like that. I could see how he's doing that. And, you know, you look at the amazing run that John Cena had. The best thing that made John Cena the most popular wrestler is when he wasn't the champion.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is cool not to cheer for the most pushed person, but with fans not liking Roman Reigns, I want to say the only reason that gave them this much merit was for a few times he stammered on his promos. And you had to be, when you are a guy who's going to be given the keys to the empire, you cannot mess up. You cannot, you can't make a flub on a word.
Right.
And I think that's the first thing. And as soon as it happened, oh, he's not ready.
Yeah.
We need somebody else, blah, blah, blah. John Cena, you hand John Cena a microphone, he could probably talk for 3 hours and keep the fans interested. They didn't give him a break, an opportunity, and I'm a big in-ring fan of Roman Reigns. I do like his kind of laid-back, cool character.
Yeah.
I think he does need to up his anger at times. and hopefully they will continue. And I was also very, very happy and shocked because for the same fans that hated him, didn't come back with, oh, you got, failed a wellness thing. Same with Brock Lesnar fans, you know, they're, hate, but he didn't get pinched in WWE, he got pinched in UFC, and no one went after him for that. So that's kind of, it's like, oh, we that's okay that you did that, but oh, you messed up on a promo. No, it shouldn't be. He always delivers his matches. Me personally, I'm a huge, and if you want to talk about, the kayfabe guy, Rusev is an amazing, amazing performer. He goes out there and makes the people hate him all the time. He's another guy that I would say, hey, Rusev, carry the ball for me for a while until I had the proper baby face to go after you.
He reminds me of Don Morocco. He goes out there, he just does everything right.
Yep.
Great heel, great look.
The second original Rock, because Ole Anderson was the first, then...
Ole was a Rock?
Ole was the first Rock.
Really?
Ole was the first Rock, then it was Don Morocco, then it was the most electrifying.
I wanted to be when Don Morocco came back with Superstar, and he had that huge transformation, I was like, man, that's who I wanted to be like, was him.
Don Morocco was an amazing, amazing performer, and a guy, he wrestled Hulk Hogan, he wrestled Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, Hulk Hogan, and Bob Backlund in main event programs.
Wow.
That's how long he was around.
Damn.
Yeah.
And
Him and Bob Orton were a great tag team.
Yes, they were.
The Tank and the Technician.
Well, fans, that does it for this week's edition of Feedback Friday. Tommy, thank you so much for joining us here on this expanded edition of the show, and I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow night on Primetime. I understand you said there's surprises, and usually I want to know what those surprises are, but I'm going to go ahead, out of respect for you, let you hold on to them. We'll talk about them tomorrow night on Primetime.
Thank you very much.
And
It's about
get
time you show
more.
somebody some respect around here.
Well, Tommy deserves it, and you don't.
Guys have such an issue. I love it.
For that one, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you, Tommy Dreamer, and thank you to all of you for joining us here on Feedback Friday. We'll see you tomorrow night on a stacked edition of Primetime Saturday Night.